The Campaign for Black Male Achievement presents their 10th anniversary gala. It's an event to celebrate 10 years of growth and impact for the Black Male Achievement movement. Funds raised from the gala will be used to further expand upon the Campaign for Black Male Achievement's vision to build beloved communities for Black men and boys by investing in the leaders and the organizations that are improving life outcomes for Black males across the nation. Save the date. The event happens on Thursday, October 18th, 2018. And to learn more, you can hop on over to tbpod.com/Black Male Achievement.
You're listening to the Trailblazers podcast, where we will explore the stories of successful Black professionals. Join us as we highlight the knowledge, resources, and tools of these accomplished trailblazers to help provide the know-how, confidence, and motivation you need to blaze your trail. And now, here's your host, Stephen Hart.
Enjoy the little things, because one day you're going to look back and realize that they were the big things. Often we're so caught up looking at the destination and our goals, our legacy, or the vision we want to live out that we can easily forget how we are going to get there, how we are getting there. This week, June 28th, at the time this episode goes live, this coming Thursday, marks my 10th wedding anniversary to my amazing queen and my bride and mama to our two crumb snatchers, Mrs. Kristen Hart. Thank you so much for believing in me and for loving me. And I look forward to forever with you. I do wish sometimes we could vacation forever, but I'm at least grateful when we get some time away from the kids to be alone for a few days. So I appreciate Kristen's parents, Mike and Letitia. Thank you so much for giving us a week without the kids and allowing us some time away to celebrate this milestone. I do look forward to sharing some of the highlights of our grand adventure. So you'll want to stay tuned in to a future episode where I share some of our experiences on this summer vacation of ours. I want to dive in quickly because this is going to be a very short episode, but today I wanted to share something really important with you. If you're a business owner or maybe even an aspiring entrepreneur, you're going to want to pause what you're doing right now for a couple minutes and listen to this. In fact, if you're a business professional or a college graduate, soon to be exploring any kind of career opportunity, you should also listen to this. And actually, if you're a creative, maybe you're a new author or a blogger or a podcaster, and you're trying to develop awareness and trying to grow your platform, you should really listen to this too. So here's the thing. Every single week, I engage in conversations with entrepreneurs, with corporate folks, leaders, professionals, authors, definitely podcasters, end up needing to hear what I'm about to tell you. In fact, just this week, just a couple days ago, I had someone reach out to me in the DMs. And they were asking for my help as a marketer to market a new book that they were about to launch. And I asked this person who was her target audience. And by target audience, for everyone listening, I'm referring to who are you trying to serve? So what type of reader, what type of customer, what type of listener, if you're a podcaster, are you looking for? Are you trying to connect with? Are you trying to engage in becoming part of your community, in buying your product, in hiring you? When I asked this particular person about her book, she said her book was for self-help. So clearly, she missed my question. And so I asked her again, who is your book for? The response that I often get is cringeworthy. No different here. Her response was, well, I think the book would serve so many different types of people. And be honest with you, this is where marketers like me come alive, right? Hear me out, Blazer Nation, and hear me good. When you attempt to serve everyone, you serve no one. Do not create a product or service or a promotion or an offer or a book or a podcast or even a resume and a cover letter until you understand who you are serving, who you are speaking to. Knowing your audience is essential. I've said this before, I'll say it again, but I want you to understand why. And the why is that you're likely not creating your product or your service for yourself. And just your tone of voice, just the voice changes, right? That happens. It depends on who you're speaking to, right? For example, your tone of voice is going to change. Your messaging is going to change if you're speaking to a 2-year-old girl versus a 12-year-old boy versus a 32-year-old woman So you would never speak to those three groups of people if you grouped 2-year-old girls or grouped 12-year-old boys or grouped 30-year-old women. And so the same is happening here, right? These are target groups. These are target markets. So before you begin writing a resume or developing your product or service, if you're creating a business, or, whatever you're trying to do, you've got to give thought to who's going to consume it, who's going to read it, who's going to use it, and what you need to give thought, right, to how what you're trying to create is going to add value to that end consumer. Once you're clear on who you are serving, and the next step is that you're going to want to work on your messaging. So you know who you're serving, right? And your messaging is then going to speak only to that group of people. Yes, you could serve a whole heap of people. And keep in mind, this is no different than the biggest companies in the world. Facebook started out just the same way. They jumped up and down in a puddle before owning the ocean, right? When Facebook started, they were only serving Ivy League schools, right? And then they went out from there and grew and grew and grew. So you need to start serving a very defined group. And so your messaging is going to speak to just that group, whether it's a tweet, whether it's a social media post, whether you're creating a marketing piece, right? A press kit or some type of media kit, or, whoever and however, whatever kind of marketing collateral you're creating, you are going to know that the message, if it's well written, is beginning to attract only the people you're trying to target, the audience you're trying to target. And the reverse is true, and it gets a lot of you very nervous, right? It will begin to repel the others. It will begin to repel the people that you're not attracting. And that's okay. You've got to get to the point where you are okay with the fact that you are not for everyone. But the folks that love your messaging, here's what's going to happen. They're going to get behind you. They will hire you. They will buy your products and services. They will read your blog posts. They will listen to your podcast, and they will become your super fans and advocate for your brand better than you ever could. Trailblazers FM is a podcast for Black professionals. It is a podcast that interviews Black professionals. The podcast has interviewed more than 120 Black professionals, entrepreneurs, creatives, and corporate leaders. Obviously, anyone can consume Trailblazers.fm. The content, generally speaking, has very little to do with race, right? It is about Black professionals, though, and so we are talking to them through the lens of such. I could easily have created this podcast saying I'm a business podcast for entrepreneurs, creatives, and corporate leaders without saying that my focus was on interviewing Black professionals, right? And just interview them anyway. But I would have lost out trying to serve everyone. Here's why. I might not have gotten the attention of many of you who are searching for Black professionals, which, is how many of you who have connected with in the past, that's how you found out about us in podcast directories like Apple, right? And likewise, another great why is that I would not have been able to connect with partnerships and relationships that I did. I isolated the podcast to focus on a very small group. And I made that bet, right? I know there are several other podcasters that are very much like me right now who are getting 10x the downloads that I'm getting right now, right? 5x the downloads, who aren't niching down. But for me and for you, it should never be about quantity, right? You're not trying to serve everyone. You're not trying to serve this massive crowd, and yet you're not selling anything. Yet you're not connecting with particular community. You're not building relationships, right? I attracted a fraction of a large audience, but I love that because, again, we now have amazing partnerships and relationships that forge because of it. My sponsorship came out of that because it became easier, right? It's easier for us to align with other folks, other organizations, other people that share a similar mindset, share a similar mission and vision with you, right? With what you're trying to do. And it's easier for them to see that that mission is aligned because you articulate that mission and vision. And they know exactly that, this is for them. We've built a slightly smaller community, yes, but our community is engaging and it is so much more supportive. I love you guys because at the end of the day, you guys would go to the end of the earth to help me through and have helped me through so much. There are several people that support me week in, week out, month in, month out, right? And I'm now able, the great thing is, as more and more people identify themselves and they align with that initial audience that I was targeting, now I have a real person that I am serving. And that person becomes what we call our persona or bio avatar. And I begin to talk with these people, real listeners who are listening to me right now. You have become my avatar, my persona with who I look to serve on future podcast episodes. So I understand who you are, what you do, how old you are, what kind of lifestyle you live, how much kids you have, whether you're married or not. And I begin to understand what your challenges are, what your mindset is, right? So again, the number one bad habit we all have is creating without first knowing who we're serving. Number one habit we all have, I'm going to repeat this. The number one habit we all have is creating a product, creating a resume, creating a service, creating a blog or podcast or book without first knowing who you are serving. And if you're trying to serve everyone, you're serving no one. So know who you're serving. When you do, align yourself with their point of view, right? So look through their lens, the things that are challenging them, that keep them up all night. Try to understand things from your audience's perspective, understand their mindset. When you can get yourself, when you can get your hands wrapped around and get a firm grip on your audience's lifestyle, their thoughts and opinion pattern, right? You're trying to serve moms, look at things through the lens of a mom and how she's trying to handle life and work and kids and all the craziness, right? And understand, important too, even understand their sense of humor. At that point, you begin to create alignment in your messaging that leads to that connection and leads to that buying decision where they want to buy from you. People don't just buy based on rational thinking. Our decisions are highly emotional. So we can influence someone when we create that connection through feelings. So as I wrap up, I want you to remember this. Your number one goal is to create the know, like, and trust factor with a clearly defined group of people who, once you've done that, you can create and should craft very clear messaging that then connects your solution, your product, your service, your career offerings. You're creating clear messaging that's connecting that solution to their problems. Hope you guys have a terrific week, and God bless.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Trailblazers podcast. I'll be posting links to all of today's book recommendations and links mentioned on our show notes page at tbpod.com. If today was your first time listening to the Trailblazers podcast, I just want to extend a warm Trailblazers welcome to you. We're so happy to have you here, and we encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button in your favorite podcast app. Go ahead and browse through some of our past episodes to keep the knowledge flowing. If you're a fan of the podcast and today's content, and you're maybe already subscribed to the podcast, please continue to share and invite your friends, your family, your colleagues to listen to an episode that you think might impact them most. We believe that someone listening to these inspiring stories will be moved to make significant changes that will have generational impact for many others, both now and well into the future. Don't miss next week's episode. New episodes are released each and every Monday by about 5 a.m. Eastern. Trailblazers, jump off this podcast today. Go find a way to rise above, go way beyond, and keep blazing your trail. Cheers.